Just over a year ago, a longtime friend approached me about donating sperm. She and her husband were struggling through the adoption process, and her husband was struggling through fertility treatment, so I swooped in to the rescue, even though I am going through fertility treatments as well. That information may come in handy later. We went through a doctor. After reviewing the documents, there wasn't any that covered my liability. The process went well, and they were pregnant. I was excited for them. However, about 7 months into her pregnancy, she was laid off from her job, which was a huge blow, as both of them were expected to be working to give the child a happy laugh. The child also turned out to be 2, making things a little bit more difficult. The child was born, and I was happy for them. Now, a month later, I'm scared. I was recently contacted by the husband that I should be paying child support, as it was technically my child. I was confused, so I reached out to them again, trying to figure out what was going on, and didn't really get the full story, other than they needed the money. I've not reached out to a lawyer yet, thus why I'm reaching out to this subreddit. So, my 3 main questions are: A. Am I liable for this child if the documents didn't cover me? B. What legal actions should I take? C. Should I try a DNA test to see if the child is even mine? A. What do you mean the documents didn't cover you, and there wasn't any that covered my liability? Do you mean that your paternal responsibilities or rights weren't covered in the document? B. At least consult with a lawyer. Make sure you find every scrap of paper and communication relating to this entire ordeal. Do you know how to get in contact with the doctor? C. No, not unless ordered by the court. Here's a question. Is the husband on the birth certificate as the father of the child? Another one is, was this through a clinic, or what kind of doctor handled it? Don't talk to them anymore. Don't reach out to them. Do not send money. And do not provide anything for DNA testing. I, 21 female, and my fiancé, 26 male, recently got engaged after dating for 2 years. Since the start of marriage conversations, I said I didn't care for a big deal, and I was happy with a courthouse marriage and a house party with close friends and family to celebrate. I don't have a lot of family anyway, so I'd have maybe 10 people to invite, while he would have well into 40 to 60, not counting his close friends. We also are paying off land we just bought and don't want to pay for the whole affair. We broke the news to his family recently, and his mom immediately started talking about decor in her craft room from her daughter's wedding. I then told her we wouldn't be having one, and she seemed disappointed, but overall fine. A few days later, I went to her house to pick up something while my fiancé was at work. As soon as I opened the door, she told me to leave. I asked why, as I hadn't had any issue beforehand, and they're typically very welcoming to me. She then snapped, saying I was taking away her and her husband's chance to see their first son get married, because the youngest would die alone and they only have daughters other than the 2 boys, and that I wasn't welcome in their home unless I agreed to a wedding. Trying to avoid an argument, I turned around to leave when my sister-in-law, who had also come to visit, told me I needed to stop being a witch and just have a wedding to play nice. So I asked who was going to pay for it, since we're building our future instead of spending way too much money on a one-day event. Mother-in-law, all high and mighty, said, "Customs say the bride's parents pay for it, so go ask your parents so you can do things properly." She knew that wasn't possible due to not having contact with my dad after kicking me out at 18, and my mom works for barely minimum wage at a rehab, but she has free housing on site. My mom is also a little disappointed we don't want a big wedding, since she missed large portions of my life due to divorce, and then down spiraling, and just getting clean a couple years ago. She respects our decision nonetheless, though. My fiancé doesn't care one way or the other, since it's whatever I want to do, since it's my big day as he sees it, and has done everything he could to take the blame so they'd stop harassing me about it. His parents, on the other hand, have completely turned on me, saying I was only getting married so I can divorce him for everything he's worth, since it's the only reasonable reason to not want a wedding. All his sisters have been blowing up my phone to the point I had to block all of them. They have called me every name in the book for taking away this precious memory of their dearest son, and I'm starting to feel like I'm in the wrong possibility. So I ask, am I the a-hole for not wanting a wedding? Not the a-hole. Customs says bride's family pays for the wedding. For duck's sake, it's 2022. Anyone who wants to pay for the wedding can pay for the wedding. Also, their reasoning is so asinine. You don't want a wedding so you can divorce him? Beach! People who have weddings still end up getting divorces. Both of my sisters have been married at least once, had the entire ceremony, and ended up divorcing their husbands, for valid reasons. Is your fiancé close with your parents? Would he be willing to go no contact? Because they are extremely toxic and already trying to say their youngest will die alone, like they can predict the future. My brother and I have a good relationship and he's not struggling financially. When my brother married, I spent $200 on a suit and shoes to be in it and gave $300 as a gift. As our wedding neared, my brother said he couldn't make it because of work. I understand the importance of work. I wrote his cover letter and resume to help him get a good job and pension. So I said I'd be sad not to have him, but I understand. Our parents have passed away, and my now wife and I were having a small wedding, and his family, my brother, his wife, and 4 kids, were the only guests on my side, so I was heartbroken he wouldn't attend, but I tried not to be difficult. I just asked if he might consider mentioning his brother's wedding and asking if they'd consider switching his shift, but if not, he understood and would be available to work. He didn't want to ask, so I didn't press and said I understood, but it hurt he didn't even care enough to ask. Neither he nor his wife asked questions about the wedding leading up to it either, but maybe not everyone considers that important to show you care. Then, a week before the wedding, his work moved his position, which changed his schedule, and he was free to come. I was emotional and happy, but once he realized he was coming, he said he was happy and was going to ask for the time off anyway. It didn't make sense it was so close, and I feel he realized he was now going and wanted credit. On the wedding day, he brought up multiple times he asked his boss for the time off, even though he'd told me otherwise. At the wedding, we had the kids serve as flower girls and ring bearer, and asked they wear white. We were told they went to get dresses, but 2 didn't like any white ones, so they wouldn't be in the wedding. We said we just care about them being part of our day, so we could get whatever colors they wanted. They showed up in new workout clothes and old sneakers. At my brother's wedding, they wore white dresses and nice shoes, so we felt a bit like they didn't care to put forth effort or thought into us, but we ignored it and told everyone how nice they looked. For the reception, we bought toys for the kids, gifts for their roles, and set up a scavenger hunt for them, which cost well over $100, which was our own choice, but we wanted them to feel cared for. After they left, he texted me multiple times to make sure I didn't forget their gift at the reception. When we opened it, we received a $29 picture frame, along with the receipt, plus a random receipt from stuff they got at La Vie en Rose. I don't know if I'm the a-hole, but it really stung and brought everything else rushing back. We can't help but feel they just don't care or put much thought into us. We try to make them feel cared for, and because my nephew's birthday's coming up, even sang him happy birthday during the reception with a cake and gift. That cost more than $29. So, what do you think? Am I the a-hole for caring about the gifts and the events above? Or do I have a reason to feel hurt? It sounds like it's one of 2 things. Either your brother and wife don't give a crap about you, or they are in severe financial straits and are trying to cover it up. If it's the former, not the a-hole. If it's the latter, then no a-holes. Not the a-hole. Generally, I think it's petty to be annoyed about a gift rather than grateful. But in this case, whoa. Your brother sucks. The way he treated you sucks, and his gift sucks. I think your brother must secretly hate you, talk crap about you to the kids, seeing how they didn't want to come over an outfit, and is just not telling you about it. You don't treat people you like or love that way. Wearing yoga pants, gym attire to a wedding is disrespectful. It's like they were trying to crap on you, cause you can find a cheap cute dress anywhere. Also, the cheap gift was just the cherry on top. I don't think you're an a-hole for noticing the price, which he made sure to show you leaving the receipt, especially after you were so generous with his big day. My wife and I just had our first child. Our daughter is just a little under a month old. My wife had an emergency C-section after complications with the birth, so she has had a hard time recovering, but has been nothing short of an amazing mom. My parents visited around the time that our daughter was born, but returned home shortly after, even though my mom is a trained midwife. This was because my wife had family visiting for the sole purpose of helping once the baby was born. The family, mother-in-law and sister-in-law, have been staying with us in our guest room. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law have been super sweet to me, and they all adore our daughter, which is why I'm so confused why they are, at least what I would consider, too rough on her. Her mom controls her schedule, picks on her eating habits, makes comments about her body and the way she breastfeeds, and shames her into doing things her way. Her sister doesn't really actively pick on her like her mom does, but she doesn't exactly do anything to stop their mom from being awful. My wife has never been emotionally fragile or anything, but pretty much every day that I've come home from work, there's been some sort of conflict between her and her family. Also, whenever my wife leaves the room, they talk in German, but I don't think they speak it because it's easier for them. I'm relatively sure it's because they're talking about my wife or me, and they don't want me to know. Yesterday, after I got home from work, my wife was reheating a slice of pizza, and her mother literally took it out of the microwave and said that she should eat something less fattening, and that she would make something. My wife gave in and left to our room, where I was, completely in tears about how she wishes her mom didn't call her fat, and that she feels like she can't do anything right. I was really mad. I confronted both of them and told mother-in-law that my wife was in tears and told her to cut my wife a break because the pizza was in the fridge for her to eat. Just if my wife wants to eat pizza, she should be able to eat pizza and not feel bad about it. She doesn't have a weight problem, and even if she did, it's not their job to fix it for her. Her sister says it wasn't a big deal, that she's just being emotional right now, and that they were just trying to look after her well-being. I said that I don't want them in our house if the way that they are treating her is making her feel like crap all the time. They tried defending themselves, and I told them to find a hotel, and they should only visit for the remainder of their trip. Mother-in-law called me an a-hole and said that I was screwing them over by making them leave, and that the two of them will not be back until I apologize. I don't think that I am the a-hole here, and when I asked my wife, she said that she was happy that I made them leave. However, we are now short on help with the baby until my mom is able to come over in a few days. Not the a-hole. What good is help that just gets in the way of your wife doing what she needs to do, while making her feel terrible in the process? If mother-in-law and sister-in-law can accommodate your wife's emotional well-being and respect her ability to make her own choices as an adult and mother herself, they can stay gone until they figure it out. Not the a-hole! Not the a-hole! Not the a-hole! I could shout it from the rooftops until I lose my voice. They are being terrible to your wife, and you did the right thing by stepping up and protecting your family. Your wife is in an incredibly vulnerable state right now, emotionally and physically. She's relieved they are gone, which should be all the proof you need that you were in the right. Context. My sister-in-law, aka my brother's wife, likes to give her opinion without listening to the whole story. Like, basically, if she was to use this sub, she'd read the title of a post and she'd give her opinion on that alone, then insult everyone that replied to her comment, then play victim if no one took her side. Backstory. I gave birth on the 16th of January to my third and last child. To make a long story, I went into labor while out shopping. We finished what we had to do, then went home for a few hours. Later, I told him to drop me off at the hospital so he could collect the kids from school, then drop them off at my mother-in-law's house and get a few hours sleep himself so could take care of the baby when she was born. If it's not obvious by now, my labors usually take 18 to 24 hours. But 3 hours in, I had some issues and I had to get an emergency C-section. I didn't have time to call him, and per my request, he didn't contact me because I wanted sleep. So our daughter was 8 hours old till he knew. Look, it was one of those crap happens things that neither of us could control, nor do we care about. I recently met up with my whole family so they could meet my daughter Rose, and everyone asked me was it true my husband was asleep when I gave birth, to which I said yes, laughing. Before I had a chance to explain, my sister-in-law went into the sitting room and started screaming at my husband, calling him the world of names. She literally said he didn't deserve to be a father. I got pissed and said, "Yet again she strikes. Did you ever think to hear the whole story out? Or do you like the attention of being that witch who always has to be right?" She told me she was only defending me and my husband was a piece of crap. I literally laughed in her face and said, "Girl, it wasn't anyone's fault. Crap happens." She ended up leaving and since refused to speak to anyone in my family due to the humiliation I put her through. My brother said I caused trouble in his relationship and his wife feels too embarrassed to speak to anyone in our family, and that I should apologize because I know how she is. Honestly, I don't know if it's the night feeds or guilt at this point, but I feel like an a-hole. Not the a-hole. She brought that on herself. Maybe now she'll learn to keep her damn mouth shut about things she hasn't got a clue about. The only person causing problems in your brother's relationship is her. Do not apologize. You'll just be enabling her bad behavior. Not the a-hole. She immediately started yelling at your husband and calling him names, trying to defend you. You had absolutely every right to yell at her and call her a B and defend your husband. Not the a-hole. You had your husband's back. That trumps her thinking she was having yours.